This was my face 140 days ago. With the exposure that I've gotten on the internet over the last couple of weeks, I've become increasingly aware of the eye bag and scar situation that's happening on my face thanks to some not so kind internet commentators. But I didn't realize it until today in my therapy session that the accident I was in might actually have something to do with my eye bags even 3 months later. I have a whole lot to say and this video is kind of a long one, but if you or someone you know has recently had a concussion and hasn't reached out to a professional to help them with their recovery, then I would highly recommend watching this, because really there's so much that therapy can help with. But if you don't watch the rest of this video, I just want you to know that therapy can really be helpful in getting your brain back to where you want it to be. I'm a human biology teacher on a quest to figure out what's going on inside my own flesh suit, so let's jump in. On July 17th of this year, I was involved in an ATV accident. From what I can gather, this picture was taken just moments before the crash. The accident left me with a broken collarbone, abrasions to my face and arm, a moderate concussion, and several memory issues. I actually still can't remember 2 hours before the accident, all the way up until the next morning. And at the peak of my memory loss, I actually couldn't remember that I had weaned this guy 2 months before, or that I had gone to Thailand about 4 weeks before. I ended up getting surgery to put the 3 pieces of my clavicle back together, and I ended up with a pretty sweet scar and a plate and 8 screws. A few weeks ago, after the dust had finally settled and it felt like my body had recovered, I realized I was still having some memory issues, like not remembering the beginning of the conversation at the end of the conversation, not remembering plans that I had made with my husband, and not being able to piece together things that I knew that had happened, but wasn't sure when or where. It was frustrating to say the least, but that's when I decided to get help. I made an appointment with a neuropsychologist, and everything that he told me was just so validating. He referred me to a cognitive and speech therapist, and today in therapy, everything we talked about just felt like it clicked. It's been super validating to hear what she has to say and how she describes the things that are going on in my brain. Today we focused on fatigue and memory loss, and it took her laying it out for me to realize that my issues with memory, along with my eye bags, are likely because my brain has 2 highly energetically demanding jobs right now. The first job my brain has is to live my life at 1,000,000 miles an hour. I have 4 kids, I'm pregnant with my 5th, I just got a business off of the ground, and I'm pretty active at my church. But the second job that my brain needs to do that takes a ton of energy is healing and recovering from my accident. I could do either of those things independently, but doing them at the same time takes a lot of brain power and a lot of brain rest. She showed me this scale and reminded me that in order to have good results with my recovery, I need to make sure I'm staying in zones 8 through 10. I realized that I've been living my life in zones 6 and 7, and that's why I've kind of stalled out on my recovery. So I wanted to share with you guys the acronym that she gave me in order to help my brain rest and recover. And in reality, even if you haven't had a brain injury, these are great things to keep in mind for your overall health. The acronym is SHEET. S is for sleep. Sleep is when our brains take the time to organize and put together all the things that we've done during the day. And studies show that our memory takes a huge hit when we aren't sleeping enough. Her tip was to set a goal for how long I want to be sleeping and increase my sleep every night by 15 minutes in order to hit my goal. H is for hydrate. She drew a rough little diagram for me and I just wanted to show you guys what it looked like. Essentially, when someone is in a concussion, they end up with little tiny injuries all over their brain, represented by those dots in the middle of the circles. Those injuries actually end up like roadblocks, and our brains have to work around the roadblocks in order to get things through. When your brain has to work around a roadblock, it has to expend extra energy. And when your brain expends extra energy, it also ends up with excess waste, noted by those circles around the little injuries. It turns out that water is fantastic at flushing out those excess wastes. So when you stay hydrated, it's easier for your brain to recover. E is for eat and color. When she first mentioned this one, she talked about how important it is to make sure we're getting fiber to feed our gut microbiome. And I think we all know how I feel about that. The second E is for exercise. Exercise helps our bodies create BDNF, which is brain-derived neurotropic factor. This is a chemical that promotes healing and recovery in our brains. And T is for take a break. Taking a break is really effective in helping us make sure that we stay in the green zone on the scale. And the earlier we take breaks, the more likely we are to stay higher on the energy scale. My goal will be to take 6 short breaks throughout the day before I actually need them. So that's it. SHEET for brain recovery, but also maybe just for brain maintenance. If this was helpful for you, let me know in the comments. And if you know of someone that it might help, please send it on.